एक बैचमेट है ना, दोनों बैचमेट है। अरे वो कुछ नहीं कह सकता, वो पवार को नहीं बख्शा।
Good evening, sir. Shall we start the webinar, sir? Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. बिल्कुल.
इको क्यों हो रहा है? इको क्यों हो रहा है? क्योंकि हमारा जब मैं बाहर आ जाता हूँ। थोड़ा दूर बैठ जाए।
Yes, please start.
Right, sir. So, good evening, everyone. Respected keynote speaker of today's webinar, Dr. Ashok Misra ji, Director, MNIT Allahabad, Professor Rajiv Tripathi, Deans and heads of various departments, esteemed faculty members, and distinguished guests. On behalf of MNIT Allahabad, I feel privileged to extend a hearty welcome to Dr. Ashok Misra sir to webinar on a new paradigm in post-pandemic education, which is organized as part of Diamond Jubilee lecture series. Professor Ashok Misra is currently NASI, that is National Academy of Sciences India, Distinguished Professor at the Indian Institute of Sciences, Bangalore. Earlier, he was Director, IIT Bombay during 2000 to 2008, Chairman, India Intellectual Ventures at IIT Delhi, and at Monsanto Chemicals. He obtained his BTech from IIT Kanpur, did his MS from Tufts University, and PhD from the University of Massachusetts in 1974. Professor Misra is a director on the boards of Jubilant Life Sciences, Jubilant Pharma Limited, Kirloskar Electric Company Limited, and Higher Education Financing Agency. Earlier, he has been on the boards of Reliance Industries Limited, National Thermal Power Corporation, and Rashtriya Chemicals and Fertilizers Limited. He has held several responsibilities with Ministry of Education, Government of India, including Chairman of the Standing Committee of the IIT Council and Chairman Board of Governors of IIT Roorkee. He is a Fellow of National Academy of Sciences India and was its President from 2006 to 2008. He is also a Fellow of the Indian National Academy of Engineering, Founder President of the Polymer Processing Academy, former President of the Society of Polymer Science India, Founder President of IIT Alumni Center, Bengaluru, and member of number of professional bodies. He has received various awards including Distinguished Service Award, Polymer Processing Society Award, Distinguished Alumnus Awards from all his alma maters, Indian Chemical Council Lifetime Achievement Award for Education and Research, various awards in education, as well as Acharya Prafulla Chandra Ray Memorial Award of Indian Chemical Society. Sir has guided 22 doctoral students, co-authored a book, and has 8 patents and over 180 international publications. We welcome you, sir.
Thank you so much.
The sudden transformation from traditional model of in-class education to online education due to current pandemic has radically changed the basic operating model of higher education worldwide. According to UNESCO, schools and higher education institutions were closed in 185 countries, affecting more than 1.5 billion learners, constituting 89.4% of total enrolled learners worldwide. Academics at thousands of universities and institutes across the world are attempting to respond to the threats of pandemic while maintaining staff and students' welfare, shutting down its campuses, and adapting to the virtual world. Hence, it would be pertinent to say that the pandemic is forcing rethink and revaluation and going forward. In this new post-pandemic environment, hence a new approach is required. With this background, may I now take the privilege to invite Professor Dr. Ashok Misra sir for his keynote address on the topic, a new paradigm in the post-pandemic education. Sir.
Thank you so much, Professor Sharma. Just 1 second. I think that is.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Voice, you are not audible, sir.
Mic is muted, sir. Mic is muted.
So,
Now it's yes, sir.
कोई और device on it?
Because of use of two computers simultaneously. If one computer is
So off कर दीजिए. Just 1 second, we'll say. ये जो आपका सिस्टम है ना, इसको ऑफ ही कर दो.
There shall be only one computer at a time.
आपका सेल तो नहीं होगा. Hello, can you hear me now?
Yes, sir.
Just 1 second, we'll just sort out this echo.
volume कम कर दो.
Hello, Dr. Sharma, can you hear me now?
Yes, sir. You're very much audible, sir, now.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. So I'd like to thank Professor Rajiv Tripathi, Director of the Motilal Nehru National Institute of Technology, for very generously asking me to give this talk under the Golden Jubilee now. Thank you so much. Sorry, Diamond Jubilee. That's even better. There is still an echo. आपका computer on है क्या? Off है? So we are basically solving a problem that can happen in online education.
यहीं से कुछ गड़बड़ है. अभी तुम्हारे उस दिन मीटिंग किया था, बिल्कुल ठीक ठाक चल रहा था.
Hello, can you hear me now? Yeah, I think we have solved the problem. Dr. Sharma, just confirm that you can hear me.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You are audible, sir.
Hello? Dr. Sharma, can you hear me?
Yes, sir. You are audible, sir.
Okay, good. Can somebody else also confirm that they can hear?
Yes,
Sir, you are audible. Audible, very well audible. Sir, we can hear you properly.
sir, you are audible, sir.
Oh, yeah, I'm audible. Okay, good. So it's a pleasure to give this talk at MNIT. You cut your volume. Okay. All right, so I'll start. I think it's just a feedback loop that was going on. And if you can't hear me, please let us know. And can somebody else, anybody confirm that you can hear?
It is okay.
Yes, sir, you are audible.
You are audible to us, sir.
You are audible, sir.
Okay, I'll start now. So my topic, as was very generously introduced by Dr. Sharma, is to discuss a few aspects of online education as we proceed in the pandemic and the post-pandemic era. So I'll share my screen, and somebody has to tell me that you can see it. Browse my computer. Yeah, I have that open, you know.
Share the screen and see the question.
Open it. Okay, good. All right, so I gave the title to this talk as a new paradigm. Sorry for the correction there. A new paradigm in post-pandemic education. And what we will discuss in this are the opportunities in the teaching, learning, and evaluation process in the change scenario of COVID pandemic. So this is what would be the basic theme of this. So let us look at this. What is the COVID-19 pandemic crisis with respect to education? It has disrupted education on a scale never seen before. Never seen before means first time ever. It's like a tsunami in many ways. A total of 1.7 billion students, some figures were given by Dr. Sharma, which is similar to this, globally have been affected by the closure of schools and higher education institutions in response to the COVID-19 pandemic. By mid-April 2020, which is last year, more than about 15-16 months ago, more than 90% of the world's learners had been locked out from their classrooms. Basically, their homes became the classroom for them. According to the UNESCO monitoring report, 192 countries, they may be plus minus 2, had implemented nationwide closures, affecting about 99% of the world's student population. All these are very, very huge numbers, and we have to see what we can do about it. Okay. At least 463 million students were cut off from remote learning during the pandemic. There's a wide gap between the government policy aspirations and the implementation of online education policy at the grassroots levels. Government says something, and what's happening on reality are two different things many times. Large number of students cannot be reached for online learning. Question: are the young brains being starved of stimulation due to closure of their institutions? The answer, of course, is yes, and because of going on online education. As students return to their classrooms, the shock created by the pandemic will lead to changes that should make education more flexible and efficient as we go along. And that's what is the theme of my discussion today. What really matters is good education and a good future. One second. What really matters is good education and a good future for future life of these students. That is why education is meant to be. And these are just some of the reports that in different languages that COVID-19 hits private schools, that teachers risk not being paid. All these things are going on. Students switch to public schools, in reverse in migration, and all kinds of things are going on in different countries, and these other headline reports. So what is the education crisis? Is it a global phenomenon? Yes. COVID-19 pandemic has disrupted education for over 90%, as we mentioned earlier, of the world's students, and exaggerated already existing inequalities between higher class and and the less privileged. Future of an entire generation of students has come to be at risk. We need to be concerned by the fact that COVID-19 pandemic threatens to reverse the progress which has been made so far in the education sector. Humanity and Inclusion joined the Save Our Future campaign, which brings together multiple voices and calls for greater commitment to education. The campaign gathers UN agencies like UNICEF, UNESCO, UNHCR, donors such as Global Partnership for Education, Education Cannot Wait, and so on, and a large number of NGOs which deal with Save the Children and the BRAC. The crisis will particularly affect the marginalized learners, including students with disabilities. Different levels of disruptions in developing richer countries and the developing poorer countries is going to take place. There is an urgent need to secure funding, both domestic financing and international aid, to deliver quality, inclusive education to students at all levels. At all levels. Ways in which COVID-19 pandemic can shape the future of education globally. So what are the ways? Hello, can you keep yourself on mute? There is likely that less funds will be available for education in the future. Millions of children may not return to schools and universities. That's a reality after post-pandemic era. Learning loss will exaggerate inequality from different classes of people, which I mentioned a little bit earlier. EdTech is not going to be the great equalizer as some think, and I'll talk a little bit about that. High-stake examinations are unfair this year and in the future years. We'll discuss a little bit about that also. Education markets will be disrupting and putting strain on the public sector. Okay, so some points about school education in India, particularly in India. The student population of India is a little over 300 million. This is much more than population of many countries, with nearly 2/3 living in rural India. The World Bank estimates that a year's worth of no schooling will mean a lifetime loss of $440 billion for our country, India. Hence, it is essential to have technology working for all sectors of education. In other words, we need equitable education at all levels of society. This requires access to digital technologies at every level for all children, and not so easy to do, as we will discuss. The top 5 EdTech companies, and you see lots of advertisements in the television and so on in India, have a total subscription base of under 5 million students, which means that they serve less than 2% of the student population. So you see all these advertisements and in the newspapers and televisions, but what are they actually doing? They are only, because of affordability and outreach and so on, they're only affecting 2 to maybe 2.5% of the total student population. They may end up exaggerating the digital divide between the haves and the have-nots. Digital access becomes easy if one thinks of population scale and create societal platforms for public good. And Aadhaar is one example. If we can do it that way, and for the Aadhaar, we can do it for the education system to reach as many people as possible. So what's the impact of COVID-19 on the future? There'll be open source e-learning solutions, blended learning methodologies, personalized learning powered by artificial intelligence, and redefining the role of educators, which we will discuss, convenient methodologies to erase teachers' tasks, rising demand of skill-based short duration courses. Government-led distance learning offerings that you see in various countries, which is color-coded. Data is not available in these white countries, and on the other side, school not closed in some areas, and in many areas, the dark blue and so on, the schools have been closed, and we have gone to online education, and it includes India in a very big way. Household internet, access to internet, radio, TV, and or cell phone. Because online learning requires access to some of these methodologies for sharing the knowledge, sharing education which is being transmitted. So, low income group, it's a mobile is there because lots of people have mobile, and there's some own radio and all that, but internet access is low, and TV or access is also quite low in the low income group. In the lower middle class, of course, it becomes a little better. And what we see is that the mobile or the cell phone is probably the largest possibility for access of education at all different levels. Then you can say receptivity through online for different age groups. And we can see that the lower age group receptivity is slightly lower, at middle age group slightly better, and of course the higher age group again it goes down, very poor. And average receptivity, and this is just an idea to give what kind of receptivity people have in various age groups, and this is again defined in this manner in a pie chart. Overall, average and very poor receptivity is almost 36%, which is more than 1/3 of the student population. So is internet going to be helpful or not? And this is what we are discussing. This is a pie chart for questions whether the respondent faced health issues, whether the respondent utilized the time efficiently, whether the respondent is socially well connected. And you can see that these are again very big pie charts in which you're saying all these questions is the answer which is decreased in terms of access of education or transmitted education. Now, when you do teaching learning in the video mode, what happens? Because that's what is going on. Even this lecture is going through a video mode. It enhances flexibility in scheduling of classes, especially the ones that have been missed due to schedule of the teacher. So earlier, I've been a teacher most of my life. And so if I had a meeting somewhere and I was sitting in Bombay and I had to go to Delhi and I said, oh, today I have to travel, I can't take a class. Now you can reschedule the class in evening or on the weekend or things of that nature. So that's a good thing that's happening. Challenges for the teacher to make the visuals and presentation appealing. In the old days, you do the chalk and talk and you went to the blackboard and you drew something and some things were in the slides and a mixture sometimes of slides and PowerPoint presentation and Blackboard. Now is all PowerPoint presentation on the computer, which is being seen by everybody. So therefore, a lot of visuals are there, and these visuals have to be appealing and should captivate the attention of the students. Teachers have to improve their speaking and communication skills, because now you don't have a class in which the kid and student sitting across in the classroom. You have them sitting somewhere remotely, some in Bihar, some in Andhra Pradesh, and so on. You're teaching from Bangalore or Allahabad or whatever. So the communication skills has to be very, very good. They have to keep the students engaged through the duration of online lectures, and that's why these two things are important. Online forums in a class could help shy students to ask questions, which they normally would not do in a physical classroom. And that's important, because sometimes in a classroom there are, let's say, 50 students, and some shy students will not like to stand up and ask a question. Whereas in the internet mode, in the video mode, you don't have to see the face sometimes, and the boldness can come in and the shyness can go away. Online forums in the class could also be good for people who miss a class and they can view the lecture a little bit later. Now you're worried about online examination, not possible so easily by the conventional pen and paper test because you don't know who is interacting with whom through their another device, WhatsApp, this, that, and the other. Hence, you have to think of other means of evaluating the students, and these need to be developed. Open book examinations, term papers, presentations, viva, take-home exams are all possibilities, but you have to see that they can be done on scale and can it be done for a large class also. It offers opportunities to teachers to find creative ways of evaluating the students. Teachers could listen to a recording of himself or herself giving a lecture. So that's the other thing, many times you give a lecture in a classroom, when you go away, you don't know whether the lecture was good or bad, and you say, okay, theek hai, chalta hai. But now you have a recording and you can listen to it yourself and say, oh my goodness, I didn't do it so well last time, let me see if I can improve it next time. And these are opportunities for the teacher. Benefit of lectures delivered through the video mode are that useful to students who are weak in the subject. See, in the classroom, if a student is slightly weak or cannot follow the English, for example, the accent of the teacher and the like, they can now rewind the videos, listen to difficult topics repeatedly, make a pause and play it back and things like that, just like you try to see a movie sometimes on Netflix and go back and see it from different places in the movie. You can do that in the lectures. And this would help the slow learners or those who are difficulty in following the English in the class or English instructions in the class. Useful to students who may not be able to follow English, and I mentioned this. And this process will also help improve the English of the student because you can hear the lecture 2 or 3 times and therefore the student's English itself will increase. Of course, it will require a little extra effort. In large classes, which have become the norm now, students are far away from the teacher. So if there's a big, huge room with 300 students, the person sitting in the last bench can hardly see the face of the teacher. But now, in the online mode, you can see the face of the teacher. It's right there on the computer screen. And therefore, some sort of a better visual is between the teacher and the students. It's very useful for students who may have missed a lecture due to several reasons. You're not well, you had a marriage in the house and you couldn't go and this and that, so you can see the recording in the night and catch up with the class. So missing of education becomes easy to catch up. The student can take notes of portions that may not have missed during the lecture and revisit them later. We should use the services of teaching assistants for conducting to help sessions for weaker students. And I'll talk quite a bit about this teaching assistant business. Right now, many IITs and NITs have teaching assistants and they get these as scholarships to be teaching assistants. And we have not fully utilized their services. The videos can be used by new faculty methods who are starting their teaching activity, and they can see outstanding videos of senior faculty, and this would be of great help in their own planning the lectures. It will benefit good students. They may watch only topics which are difficult to them, fast forward the others, and watch the portions that are more difficult for them. So they can do this. Personalization is possible as beginners and experts both can watch at their convenient pace. Pause and watch and pause and watch the recordings. And then now the new paradigm, I read a recent report in the press, and National Education Policy also alludes to it, that can engineering be taught in different regional languages in the country. Prime Minister made some remark about that, our Honorable Prime Minister. So it's possible to translate the lectures in many languages if the videos are available. You can't do it from a classroom teaching, but if the videos are available with the with the language processing through artificial intelligence. This will become much easier in the future. What are the potential disadvantages of online teaching? One-on-one interaction becomes difficult because large classes there, faculty, students, and this becomes a little difficult. No instant feedback from the body language of the students. So if you are teaching in a classroom, people are sleeping, dozing off, you say, oh, they're not interested in the subject. Here, everybody's on mute, even video mute, so you don't know what the reaction of the students. Distractions beyond that of a classroom. At the student's home, in some cases, the student's home may have small areas and a large number of family members living, and they are making noise in the background, and this is a distraction for the student. So this is a little difficult thing, and you have to worry about that. Not everybody has access, not every student will have access to his or her own room for these video instructions. The network issues are there. Of course, India is trying to address it through the 5G and so on, and Jio and Airtel and whatnot. But large bandwidth is needed if video is on, and there could be frequent disruptions. I've had this students, if I ask a question, then sometimes their video goes off while they're answering the question. If video is turned off, the teacher does not know whether the student is attentive in class. So people leave their ID on with video off and go away and do something else. Since classes are recorded, the students may slacken and they say, okay, I'll see it later. There is some disturbance right now. I think somebody's audio is on. So please, may I request all of you to put your audios on mute. आप लोग अपना ऑडियो ऑफ कर दें. Hello. I request all the participants to please mute their mic.
शर्मा जी आप कर दीजिए, शर्मा जी आप ऑफ कर दीजिए ना अपने उससे.
ये खुला हुआ है इसको.
Slide show would make it easier. कहाँ गया? बंद है.
प्रेजेंटेशन शायद क्लोज हो गई है.
मैंने फिर से करता हूँ. इसमें जाऊँगा.
नहीं सर, वो प्रेजेंटेशन ही आपने क्लोज कर दिया था ना, ओपन करना पड़ेगा फिर से यहाँ से.
ये
एक मिनट. प्रेजेंटेशन ओपन कर लीजिए। सर इसमें कहाँ है? इसको ओपन कर लीजिए।
इसमें नहीं।
सर लिस्ट में से सर अब शेयर कर लीजिए।
Okay.
यस एक
Okay. Sorry about that. These are this represents some of the pitfalls that can happen in online education. Somebody leaves the mic on and there's background noise and so on. I hope you can hear me. Can somebody confirm?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Good, perfect. Okay, so where were we? Okay, since classes are recorded, okay, this I did already. Now, increased power of tutorials and the role of TAs. Tutorials can be made more personal by having lesser number of students in the group, an improvement on teaching learning process. I think I missed one slide, just give me 1 second. Okay, so this is, yeah. So potential disadvantages, one-on-one interaction is not possible. There could be distractions beyond that of a classroom, network issues. If students' videos turn off, the teacher doesn't know what's going on. And the last thing was that the time to cover the subject matter in the video mode tends to be a little bit less. Oh, I don't know what's going on. Sorry, just 1 second. Huh? Yeah. Time to cover the subject matter in the video mode tends to be shorter than in the physical mode. And there are less pauses, because when you're teaching in a classroom with the chalk and talk business, there are pauses and you look at the body language of the students and the like. But in the video mode, I have experienced that a 1 hour lecture I can normally finish in 40 minutes. So that gives you some extra time to do a few things. We'll talk about that in a minute. Okay. We have to increase the power of tutorials and the role of TAs. Tutorials can be made more personal and therefore an improvement on teaching learning process. Projects can be given to smaller groups of students who can interact through the video mode and give this in a more creative and innovative way. We should use the teaching assistants to conduct help sessions as well as help in preparing term papers, projects, etc. And I have actually used TAs, and once you give them the responsibility, they actually perform. The role of TAs increases considerably in helping the main lecturer in the class preparation and overall control. The other thing that TAs are doing in the video mode is that they are looking at question answers, Q&A mocks, and helping to gather those questions together for the teacher, and after an automatic pause in the lecture, those questions can be asked by the TA on behalf of the student, because if there are similar questions, they can put it together. The teacher-TA interaction therefore increases greatly. And because of this enhanced role of TAs, it's a useful training for them, or at least for some of them, who may want to become teachers, or potential teachers, and therefore they'll help in bridging the gap of shortage of good teachers in our country. Now let me talk a little bit about why do we evaluate in a course. It is to judge the extent of knowledge imparted in the lectures by the teachers to the students. Some of this may simply be retention of knowledge that was transmitted in the lectures. Pose questions based on fundamentals and see if the students can analyze for solving problems posed. These are how you actually evaluate in a course. It also becomes an ability to differentiate may be the differentiator for the application of knowledge gained by the students in the course, and to see if students across the threshold of passing in the course for being worthy of getting a degree. That's why we evaluate. Distinguish between the ability of students for the purpose of grading, that okay, I want to give A grade and B grade and so on. What is an ideal situation? The ideal situation, the entire class, very ideal situation, the entire class grasps all the knowledge transmitted in the classroom teaching. And hence all of them may get an A grade or a pass grade so that they're all say, okay, you're worthy of the degree. However, this does not happen. We want to give higher marks to the better performance and things like that, and therefore the evaluation process has to continue. What is the philosophy of evaluation? The online teaching has given an opportunity to revamp the evaluation process. The aim should be to produce better students for the future. That's the whole idea of teaching and then evaluating, to have a student who actually performs better in their future life. Evaluation assessment requires different and innovative methods in online teaching. Teachers will require to develop more ongoing and systematic approach. Open book examinations to be taught, though with some innovative ideas. Take-home examinations is a great possibility, however, these have to be examined in depth. And TAs can play a very, very major role in this because you can divide the class into groups and one TA can be a mentor for several students. Challenge the students in the class with the innovative approaches. My experience is that time taken to cover the subject is less, and therefore you can ask questions in the class and pick the students at random because all the names are flashing so you know who is there, and then you say, okay, so and so, I want to ask you this question, and if they don't answer, you give them 0 marks because obviously they are not attentive. This is not easy to do in a classroom where 100 people are sitting in class in a room, but in front of the video you can easily pick names that you wish to pick to ask questions, and TAs can help in this, and they can actually point out who to ask the question. We have to think of out-of-the-box approach for evaluation. We can also warn the students in advance about the portions that there will be questions based on the previous lecture. So you can say, like I said, in my experience, each lecture online takes less time. So after 3 lectures, you can say, okay, on the 4th lecture, I will ask questions. And randomly you pick people and ask questions. This will ensure that they pay attention to the previous lectures and in fact on all lectures. Surprise online quizzes are a possibility. My TAs at Indian Institute of Science, Bangalore are very innovative and they have been able to conduct online quizzes which can differentiate between those who have understood the subject and those who have not. Also, the undergraduate students at the NITs are amongst the brightest in the country. IITs probably get higher JE rankers and so on, but NITs are just next to them. And they are still in the top 2 to 3% of all cohorts of people who finish 12th grade and want to join engineering education. We can involve them in some research topics. Give them a topic and then have them produce a paper based on even existing literature is fine. At least they're going through the literature and reading and learning. This is easier to do when the students start taking departmental courses. Much easier to do. Little more difficulty in the first year when the classrooms are large but you can think of these methods. For large classes, we can make random groups so that the number of topics given don't become too large. Keep changing the groups so that any given group does not dominate, and there's a mixture of students that keep moving around, and randomly you can make groups of students. Use the students to enhance the research areas of the teacher. Basically provide research opportunities to the students. They are very bright students at NITs, but we just keep on giving them lecture after lecture, course after course, involve them in some research projects. This will also enhance the research areas of the teachers because they're very bright students. In general, think of innovative ways of engaging the students and assess their intellectual ability. Some of the above may require greater time of the faculty to begin with, but in the long run, it will also bring about a cultural change and give a boost to the research areas of the faculty alongside the teaching. Assessment is important for fostering learning of the students, motivating their engagement and evaluating their achievement. This can be done. Several universities in the USA have developed a new methodology of teaching. In this, the class notes are provided to the students ahead of time. Then the students sit in the class with their laptops, and again they form random groups and solve problems. This can be examined for remote learning since integrations are through electronic devices. What I'm seen in the States is they all sit in one room with different laptops, but now with the internet, they could be sitting in different locations, and this can easily be done. Opportunity to increase outreach. Students anywhere can attend course lectures, anywhere in India. Students in their particular institute don't have to miss classes if they have to be away for some reason, as I mentioned earlier. Anywhere in India, also students from other institutions. An opportunity to increase the outreach as long as the syllabus is the same at similar institutions. Also think of this among the NITs. And this is where I'd like to mention that supposing, to begin with, let us say in one region 4 or 5 NITs get together and say, okay, this electronics course will be taught by the best teacher in electronics in those 5 NITs. Of course, we should not, we can rotate these around also. So let's say MNIT Allahabad has an outstanding teacher in electronics. Let him or her teach the course to students of 5 NITs, because it doesn't matter how many are connected. Whether it is 100 of MNIT Allahabad or 100 plus more of another MNIT, let's say Jalandhar, or in the area like 5, 6, 9. It will save the time of 5 other teachers in that subject which are sitting in the other NITs. Now they can utilize the time more for giving research projects, term papers, and interacting with the students of their respective NITs. So teaching is by one outstanding, let's say, lecturer from one of the NITs into, let's say, 4 or 5 NITs, or even other colleges can combine, and their teachers follow the lectures and interact with their students in their respective institution and engage them in different ways. Outside India, neighboring countries can also attend your classes. It could be Asian countries, it could be Cambodia, Laos, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, whatever. It could be outside India, outside countries outside India, like the African countries like Ethiopia, Nigeria, so on. Wherever we think there is an opportunity that we can transmit our high quality lectures to them. Several universities may try to do this, because this thought will come to many. The challenge is that what we transmit from India has to be the best and also affordable. And I think we can be more affordable than some other, let's say, Western countries. These initiatives will really enhance the quality of education within the country, because you are getting the best teacher to teach in, let's say, 5 or 6 institutions, and the others are engaging with their students on a one-on-one basis because they've saved their time in teaching, but they've engaged in the other activities as I mentioned in terms of research, term papers, take-home exams, and whatnot. Several IITs have excellent models on online education, and this can be also scaled up to the NITs. Curriculum-related matters. In the new paradigm, we must revisit the curriculum of all courses and revamp it. This is another opportunity that we must not let go. What do we need to do? Have flexibility and efficiency in mind when revisiting the syllabus. Keep the interest and well-being of all the students in focus. Introduce innovations and creativity in the curriculum of each course. Students can read their routine stuff on their own. Since a lot of stuff is available in the internet, like I said, that some of the US universities are doing. With all the video services available, we can make groups of students to interact and solve problems. This will bring out the best in them. And I'm repeating a little bit, but then that also helps to focus. As mentioned earlier, teaching learning is about making the student become well versed in the subject. However, examining them is a must, so we must also develop those paradigms. We should design the syllabus so that it gives the students a better professional future. Let's keep that in mind and then worry about how to transmit the education and how to evaluate. This, of course, needs more work for the teachers, but when they go through this cycle a few times, then their own knowledge level will increase and eventually they will become efficient teachers and superior teachers in this global world. And that's what we also need. All this will begin by revamping the curriculum. So we must look at the curriculum. What are we teaching? Like, for example, if I've been talking about undergraduate research opportunities. Let's say you have a 4-year program. If the student gets 2 or 3 less courses, but instead he or she works on research topics and produces a research paper, that is much better than and useful for the country and for the institution. And in the process, the student will learn also quite a bit. So we should think in terms of a curriculum which is not just so many courses in 4 years. Let's drop 2, 3, 4 courses. Let the students be involved in research because they can read up many of these things on their own anyways. Let us use this opportunity of by the pandemic and benefit all institutions. And there is, of course, an impact on doctoral studies, the training and support, finance, others of doctoral students in pandemic times are critical for the future in the higher education institutions and the next generation of scholars across disciplines. Experiment doctoral students, of course, require use of facilities, and this is a little bit more challenging. But we can have these institutions open for research facilities which require experimental work. Institutions will have to make some hard decisions about funding because funding may go down, especially in the areas of humanities and social sciences. Changes in national and/or international policies may alter global flow of talent for a few years, but it's difficult to say who will benefit most and for how long. So what I'm meaning here is that supposing to the pandemic, less Indian students go to the States for higher education, PhDs and so on. So who is getting, and if they want to do a PhD, they can do that in India. Or even undergraduate education, if they're denied opportunities to go abroad, they may stay in India. So we actually keep our talent with us. So that's why I'm saying we don't know who will gain and who will lose in the long run. The growing educational gap between centers and peripheries of international higher education may increase, that is, between higher income, lower income groups and all. So there may be some disparities there, but we must address this and make sure that everybody is benefited equally. How pandemic-19 is inspiring technical education, the economists as it says, COVID-19, internationalization revolution possible for higher education. Are we at a transforming mode on online education? Pandemic would create significant short-term difficulties, but long-term benefits and, well, challenges and then hopefully benefits. Higher education was likely to change fundamentally, and I've talked about a few things about curriculum and so on. COVID-19 forces teachers to shift to remote learning in a matter of days. Suddenly last March, it all changed. Sometimes the syllabus was stripped back and so on. But now we are coming back to regular syllabus. Effective use of technology in education will continue to villainize education. And this is just a curve which says how many learning months were lost in many, many countries, as we see, which are not familiar with online education. So measures to be taken to resume quality education once the pandemic goes away and education institutions reopen. The concerned authorities should continue to reinvest in online education and enhance learning experience. Because we have learned a lot on online education through the pandemic, we should not let it go. We should continue with that and take advantage of it. They should carefully analyze the issues experienced during sudden transition. Proper training of educators for the digital skills and improved student-teacher interactions must be conducted. For disadvantaged students, availability of digital infrastructure and proper internet availability and access to gadgets must be ensured. Due to the situation of COVID-19, many students are likely to suffer from stress. This is happening already, stress, anxiety, and depression. So it's necessary to provide them with emotional support also. Future work in this direction could be to analyze the association of different stress busters on the mental health of students. Moreover, guidelines should be created to anticipate the needs of vulnerable students, and improved healthcare management will ensure the delivery of mental health care. And this is visualization to demonstrate the stress relieving activities amongst different ages that you have. Okay, there are several things which are listed here: listening to music, online gaming, web series, down to singing, and so on and so forth, and different age groups. So you can see that in the younger age group, there's a lot of gaming and so on going on. In the larger group, there are other activities that people are involved in. This is just a visualization demonstration of distribution of preferred social media platform for the sample and among different age groups. So same sort of a thing, and I'll make these available to the presentations. You can see this later on. And this is ensure continuity of academic learning to students, and these are the responses that we get: support students in risk of violence at home, and several social things that are possible during this online learning pandemic thing. So major takeaways, conclude with this. The COVID pandemic pushed the advent of the digital education. Within a year, we have become digital education world. Although people were doing it, Coursera and MIT and through the NPTEL, but now it's suddenly gone to a much higher level. Public education cannot be dependent on digital platforms provided by private companies. And I said, like in the school education, that we have the data, only 2 to 3% are benefiting. In higher education, probably even less. We should consider ways that the right to education might need to be broadened to encompass fluidity, flexibility, and changing contexts of contemporary societies. A strengthening public commitment to education is for the common good. The importance of teaching profession and the teaching collaboration. The basis of education process is the human relationship between students and teachers, and that we have to address. Free and open source technologies for teachers and students. Curricula should be increasingly integrated and based on themes that allows us to learn to live in peace with our common humanity and our common planet. Governments and citizens should be encouraged to demand strong responses from the public, educators, as well as the public health. And expanding solidarity is necessary that COVID-19 has shown us. What should the NITs do? Enhance the quality of teaching through in online mode, encourage teachers to prepare outstanding presentations and the methodology to deliver lectures online, use the concept of breakout rooms, as I said, make small groups, as provided by video platforms for greater interactions and collaboration between students, make teaching more project and term paper oriented, think of education in terms of best ways to transmit knowledge, develop unique ways of assessing students, develop courses that can be used by other institutions in India and abroad. And NIT should grab these opportunities and aim to become the best teaching institutions in India and give the NITs a run for their money. So the pandemic has ushered a golden age of online teaching. We should explore the infinite possibilities as is shown by this infinity sign that I have put on the screen. So thank you so much for your patience, and I'm happy to take questions and have some discussions if the time will allow. I'm okay with that. Okay, Dr. Sharma, over to you.
Okay, thank you.
Coordinator.
Right, sir. Thank you very much, sir, for such a thoughtful presentation. This has really highlighted that there is a need to allow our institutes to not only address the crisis at hand, but also to plan for a long-term vision to evolve the higher education environment while looking to a future state of a more blended learning experience. The session is now open for discussion, and it is requested to please mute your mic once the discussion on your question is over. So, the faculty members.
If I am allowed to say, Professor Misra and Dr. Pachi, it was an extremely enriching experience. Am I audible, sir?
Yes, I can hear you. Thank you.
I'm Geetika, Professor Geetika, and presently also Dean Resource Generation. And I had the honor of hosting you as Dean Academic in one of the convocations as chief guest. So, sir, I first of all would like to say that actually you did not leave any aspect of online education or post or during COVID education system. So that was really very, very enlightening, enriching. Especially you talked also as a teacher. But sir, still it is not a question. I would like you to share some of your experiences or maybe some thought sharing that whatever, when you were talking about basically the receptivity of lectures in online mode, and you recommended and suggested various modes of enhancing receptivity, enhancing student engagement in the class, especially when we have large classes. We cannot allow them to on their cameras, and naturally there are distractions back at home, space limitation, internet connectivity, other distractions. And to top it all, because all lectures are recorded, and therefore they have the advantage of viewing them later on. So at times they may log in and they may not be at all participating. So we do ask questions, we try to keep them engaged, but at the same time, at some point of time, I as a teacher personally feel that we are not able to keep them truly engaged. Especially that is reflected when we conduct the quizzes or tests, surprise test, announce test. So we find that they have a tendency to copy from each other, to talk to each other, like because they keep their mics on mute. So how can we handle this situation? Because yes,
Yeah.
the biggest advantage of this pandemic was that we were thrust to a new paradigm into education. And as you rightly said, within few days, we were teaching online. So educators, institutions, students, families. So how to make it really interactive and how to really ensure that learning is taking place? If you could, sir, enlighten us something more on that.
Very good. So, I always answer such a question by saying, you picture yourself as a student, okay? But we picture ourselves as teachers only. Just see, supposing I was a student, what would I like to, what would I like to hear which will keep me engaged? And this is where collective wisdom is also important. So what you can do is, see, I teach a course in ISC jointly with another younger faculty. And many times I have him also attend the class and vice versa. So it becomes a feedback loop that he can say, look, sir, आपने तो lecture पढ़ाया पर मुझे मजा नहीं आया, because he's sitting there as a student. So if you start doing that, but you have to be open with each other, there is no ego involved in this. The whole idea is that you have to have the best transmission of knowledge mode. Okay, so that's why I was saying that if you combine, say, okay, let's say 2 or 3 institutions or 5 institutions combine and have the best teacher attend and the others are attending, they can also give a feedback. In your lecture, I couldn't understand, your diction was not good, your English was not good, your slides were bad, can you improve the slides? And once you start doing that, then within a year or two, you will see that your presentation slides are so outstanding that it will keep the attention of the students in the class. Give more examples of practical examples. All the equations and all people can read in the books. You just allude to it, but give them more practical examples. But at the end of the day, they have to be employable, where they can use their knowledge and have a better future. Keep that in mind, then things will follow. Rather than saying कि हमें syllabus पूरा करना है. अभी तो many institutions are just doing that. कि I have to finish this course somehow. But forget that. You have to finish the course in a manner which you will incite the students to go further. So think of yourself as a student and say what you would like to hear, and then prepare your lecture. And of course, collective wisdom by interacting with each other. What's your experience? 10 of you can get together. What's your experience and what's your experience, and feed your experience with each other to make things better.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Yeah, thank you.
I think I've answered your question.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes, Shiv, you want a question? And please go ahead and ask the question.
Hello. Hello.
Yes.
Yes, good evening, sir. I am Dr. Rupika Sinha from Biotech Department.
Yeah.
So, considering the present pandemic crisis, which suddenly changed this teaching learning techniques, so what do you think we need to pay more attention towards development of ICT tools?
Yeah, of course, IT tools have to be developed, but as a teacher of a subject, you don't have to worry about it. Let somebody else develop the IT tools. Within an institution, there should be some people who are experts in it and can guide you. But overall, these tools are being done. Zoom and Times and all, they're developing these tools. I've attended some meetings which and I didn't know even this at one time, where they can do breakout rooms within a class. So as I said, I by going on online, I can finish my course or lecture in 2/3 the time. So if I like say three lectures, and the fourth lecture is just interactions between groups. And as a teacher, I can go from group to group and say, "Tum log kya kar rahe ho? Tum log kaisa kar rahe ho? Can I help you solve the problem?" and all that. So we can do. These things are happening, and you have to take advantage of all this, which is already available.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
So somebody should be an expert in how Times works, and then share with look, you can take advantage of the facilities available in this platform, Times Now or whatever, Zoom and everyone.
Any other questions from any other faculty member? So since sir, you have already covered most of the aspects, primarily all the aspects have been covered during your presentation. So there is one question. What according to you, the institutes like IIT or NIT or universities of the future look alike with respect to the COVID situation?
I'm not sure I understand the question.
Sharmaji, will you please repeat your question?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So what according to you, given the situations as far as the pandemic is concerned, what according to you, the institutes like IIT or NIT or institutes of higher learning of the future should look like as far as the learning experience is concerned?
Okay, so I'm glad you said that, because the whole thing that this thing was that pandemic has taught us something, okay? And when we reopen, we did not go to the old ways of teaching because we have learned a little bit more. Now, when the let's say students are on campus, the lectures can still be online, but the interactions can be offline and in small groups. So we have learned that we can transmit knowledge in the online mode, and as I said, it doesn't matter when I'm teaching a course in IIC, one course is 60 students, the other was 20 students. So it didn't matter whether it's 20 students or 60 students. And you can have 200 students. So therefore, we have learned that how to make, and I hope you all have, that your slides, every time I'm teaching this course in IIC, my slides are getting a little bit better. I'm putting a few examples in there. Look, I'm teaching courses in polymers. Look, this is what happens. This is what this industry is doing. That's what that industry is doing. And therefore, the presentations are getting better and better. Whereas in the old times, you had notes and you went to the classroom and did something. Now you have to, everything that you are doing is seen instantly by many people, and they may say, "Arey, it's boring." You have to change that, and it is recorded. So not only supposing it was boring in live, when it was recorded live, then it remains boring forever and ever because it's recorded. So you have to make sure that it's not like that. It's better and better every time as you go along. So this is the opportunity, and then curriculum. You should revisit the curriculum and say, okay, why am I teaching these guys? To give a degree? No, to make them go into their professional life and make a difference in the world. Just keep that in mind when you are revamping the curriculum.
Right.
And that will, of course, affect the way what you're teaching and exactly what you're teaching.
Okay, sir. Thank you very much, sir.
And by the way, I'm happy to have discussions in smaller groups because I don't have to be in Allahabad. I can do this from Bangalore, and if your director says कि आप 10 लोग मिलके आपसे साथ discuss करना चाहते हैं, I'm happy to do that.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you, sir. So may I now request Professor Rajiv Tripathi, Director, MNIT Allahabad, to please say a few words on this occasion.
I think I am audible to everyone, Sharmaji.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You are very much audible.
Right. So, sir, thank you very much for giving insight of this. And what I personally feel is that as a teacher, whether you are in classroom or in online mode, one of the important thing is that how to make the presentation interesting. And that is equally valid when we are teaching in classroom also. And here, when we switch to online mode, the challenges are slightly different. And we have to think, we have to analyze, we have to put extra efforts to see that in this mode, how the things will be interesting. And once we changed our mode and we started thinking on those lines, definitely we will come out with the situation. And for the last more than 1 year, my all faculty colleagues, they are doing these things and they have gained the experiences. And as has been rightly pointed out, that let us have small groups or within the department or outside the department and share the experiences. Maybe somebody is doing very good, which is not exposed to others. That can be very well coordinated, and that will make the things effective. Number two, as far as the research projects and other things, probably we are very rigid in our ordinances in that terms. So we have to give a degree of freedom in our ordinances so that let the student can select that I will be going for research project and others will be registering for this course. They all will be treated at par, or maybe some other ways and means we need to deliberate, we need to put the things in our set of rules and regulations in the best interest of the student community in general. Third one is very good idea, which has been suggested by you, sir, to have group of institutions. And in fact, prior to this pandemic, one day I was talking to Director of IIIT Allahabad that we are going for MOUs in different other universities. We are sitting just 10 kilometers away. Why can't we think of doing something? So we entered into MOU, and now we are moving in this direction to have a consortium of institutions of 4, 5, 6 institutions and work out that how this consortium of institution will fulfill the objectives of national education policy. And I'm happy that things have started moving, and very soon probably things will come out of it. So thank you very much, sir, for giving us time for interacting with my faculty colleagues here. And this is an institution which has a special space in your heart, I know, and that is why you accepted our invitation, you interacted, and more frequent such interaction will take place. And as you have suggested that now distance has got no meaning and pandemic has taught us how to interact, and maybe in a smaller group, maybe with the faculty of chemical engineering and other engineering departments, they can come together. So once again, I'm thankful to you for your time, for your lecture and motivating and taking up the practical problems of online teaching. Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. And as I mentioned for the lectures also, this lecture I prepared, and every time I'm giving it, this is the second time I've given it, and I'm seeing how I can improve it. So if Dr. Sharma or somebody can send me some feedback कि आपने ये बोला था ये ठीक है, but this will be my suggestion is that you can do this. It will help me to improve my own lecture of this kind in the future. So with this, thank you so much. Thank you, Tripathi ji.
Thank you, sir.
And thank you all the faculty members of MNIT.
Thank you. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much, sir. So we are greatly honored by your gracious presence, sir, and immensely inspired by your views. We also thank you for sparing your valuable time and efforts in visiting this institute. I would also like to thank our director, Professor Rajiv Tripathi, sir, for providing this opportunity to interact with you, sir. I would also like to thank all the heads, deans, faculty members, and all other guests who have joined for this activity. The support and the help rendered by Dr. Mayank Pandey, Dr. G.P. Sahu, Dr. Rupika, Director Office, OSD Office, for smooth conduct of this activity is also acknowledged. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you all.
चलिए, नमस्कार.
Thank you, sir.